taking that sort of root and branch approach as opposed to the sort of bums on seats approach, which I often talk about, but I'll say a little bit more about both of those things. So it's not possible to sustain a diverse workforce if the environment, the policies, the culture in and of themselves exclusionary. Like, that's a really important thing to recognise. And that means fundamentally that this journey is not going to be simple. It's not something that can be wrapped up in a short-term initiative that you focus on for maybe 6 months or a year and then we all move on to the next thing. It's not possible. You must, I think, and where we've seen most effective companies kind of doing this is where they've really committed to the long term and they've fundamentally thought about refugee employment alongside some of their other workforce objectives and centrally to their business strategy, and have invested in it in the very, very, very long term, and have taken that journey from the top to the bottom of the organisation and really instilled those values in their organisation from the top to the bottom. It's really, really critical because as kind of Ashley's describing there in those kind of small examples of kind of how his company is currently doing this, you have to think about the many ways in which there are barriers for particular people and refugees for engaging in the workforce. And some of those things are not super obvious. They're not really obvious from the off. And so you have to be committed to really looking at not only your recruitment practices in detail, but also your culture, also your day-to-day ways of working, what's accepted, what's a ritual, how do we behave here? How does that create an exclusionary environment where actually people cannot progress, let alone refugees progressing in your organisation? So it really is about recruitment practice, yes, but organisational culture and aligning with your behaviours and then also business strategy. It's really important to take that kind of systemic approach to how you're thinking about this. And then to add even more complexity, to try and think about the intersectional view, actually. A refugee is not just a refugee. Like, no individual is a monolithic example of X person. A woman is not just a woman, etc., etc. We are many things. We are many and various things. And as a result, your experiences of particular dynamics are going to change based on that intersectionality, based on that kind of combination of things that you are and things that you bring in terms of your identity. So again, really trying to take some time to understand quite deeply how is someone from Ukraine going to experience this workplace versus how is someone from Sudan going to experience this workplace. These are different experiences. They come with different layers. And it's really important to spend, again, a bit of time really thinking about how the dynamics in your workplace could be impacting different people. I think just to get practical, so that you can pin it down to some like specific things. Some of the things we've seen work really, really well is kind of skills-first hiring rather than thinking about interviews as your first form of assessment or your primary form of assessment. So skills-first hiring really does support basically everybody. So you're not creating a new process specifically from one cohort of individuals coming into your company. If you transform to a skills-first approach, you're more likely to bring in women, Black and other minoritized groups, people with disabilities, people who are also refugee experienced, because you're starting with a skills-first approach. What do you bring? How do you do what you do? Rather than can you talk to me about what you do, which is a very different thing and a very kind of Eurocentric approach to thinking about employment, if you think about it that way. So thinking about the practical ways that you can break down those barriers from the beginning. I think also, like I said before, connecting refugee employment goals to your business strategy. So really thinking about how this is linked to financial outcomes, EDI, social value, whatever it means for your particular company, but ensuring that there is the resource, the focus, and the time commitment over a number of years to see that progress, because you're not going to see it in a year. It is going to take some time, and you need to invest in that and support your senior leaders to drive that through the business. Really, really critical. So that far beyond it being a fashionable thing on the agenda, it is rooted in your business, and you can keep driving it forward over time. And I think there's two other things I would say. Maybe start small if you're in a massive conglomerate and it's very, very difficult to get cut through. Then what can you do at a smaller scale with a group of allied members of staff in your area to start making some progress? And then through that, start to demonstrate what progress and success can actually look like. And then through that, you would hope you might be able to create a bit of a groundswell around making some progress on this front, where we have seen sort of medium to large businesses really make some progress, is where, in effect, rebellious individuals have decided, I'm going to take this on, I'm going to take on this challenge, I'm going to do this. As a leader, I need to do this. This feels really, really important, so I'm going to drive it forward. I'm going to try something small. I'm going to bring in maybe 10 to 15 individuals over a period of time, and I'm going to demonstrate how I did that. I'm going to bring people behind me. I'm going to tell stories of what I've learned in this process, what's worked, what's not worked, what is it about the business that is actually getting in the way, and I'm going to influence as hard as I can while I'm here to make some progress. Then I'm going to hand that over to somebody else who's going to do the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And seeing that, again, that systemic approach, you cannot change it all, but you can make progress. And it's really important to start somewhere. So if you can't do the big bang, start from the center of the strategy, you can do something smaller in your department, in your area. If you are a leader, you can do those things. So think about what you can change at a smaller scale. But I'll stop there.